He Sahaba were living in Medina, a simple and happy life. However, whenever they remembered the valuables they were forced to leave behind in Mecca and how the leaders of the Quraysh had seized them, something felt wrong. How could the oppressors unjustly keep the wealth the Muslims had worked so hard to earn? The Prophet had already sent 2 Sahaba to track a caravan, and they had just returned with news. It was a massive caravan guarded by 40 horsemen and led by Abu Sufyan. It contained 50,000 gold dinars, which, with a bit of math, is worth roughly $32 million today. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said to his companions, "This is the caravan of Quraysh containing their wealth. Go out to it. Perhaps Allah will grant it to you as booty." The Sahaba began preparing immediately. In less than 24 hours, 313 men were ready to leave Medina, 82 Muhajirun and 231 from the Ansar. They had only 2 horses, ridden by Az-Zubair ibn al-Awwam and Al-Miqdad ibn Amr, and 70 camels. Very few of the Muslims had chainmail or helmets. Most fought with only a sword and a leather shield. But Abu Sufyan sensed the danger and sent a messenger to Mecca for help. In a matter of hours, an army of 1,300 veteran soldiers was assembled, equipped with heavy armor, every type of weapon, and 100 cavalry. This massive army was so wealthy, they slaughtered 10 camels a day, just for food. Their leader was the pharaoh of this ummah, Abu Jahl. Through a clever detour, Abu Sufyan managed to lead the caravan to safety. Once the caravan was secure, 300 men from the Meccan army returned home, but the remaining 1,000 marched on to fight. The Muslims arrived first at the wells of Badr. Following brilliant tactical advice from his companions, the Prophet ensured the Muslims controlled all the water sources before the Meccan army arrived. The night before the battle, the 2 sides were worlds apart. While the 1,000 Meccans were arguing and struggling in a muddy rainstorm, the 313 Muslims were gifted a peaceful sleep by Allah that took away all their fear. A light rain fell that night, hardening the sand for the Muslims, but making the ground slippery for their enemies. While the Sahaba slept, the Prophet stayed awake all night, crying and praying to Allah for victory. By morning, the Muslims were refreshed and ready. The Meccans, however, were tired and stressed, warned by their own scouts that they were about to fight men who were not afraid to die for their faith. As the 2 armies faced one another, the first war in Islam was ready to begin. The Meccans started the battle by sending out 3 of their fiercest warriors, Utbah, his brother Shaybah, and his son Al-Walid. They stood between the armies and shouted for a challenge. At first, 3 young men from Medina stepped up, but the Meccans refused them, yelling, "Send us our equals from our own tribe." The Prophet then called out his own family, his uncle Hamza, his cousin Ali, and his relative Ubaidah. The tension was thick, but the duels ended in a heartbeat. Hamza and Ali took down their opponents almost instantly. Ubaidah was badly wounded, but Hamza and Ali rushed in, finished off the last Meccan champion, and carried their cousin back to safety. Watching their strongest leaders fall so easily sent a shockwave through the Meccan army. A frustrated Abu Jahl realized the time for talking was over. It was time for total war. The battlefield of Badr became a stage for legendary feats of bravery. Ali ibn Abi Talib was a whirlwind of steel, personally taking down nearly half of the enemy's casualties. Hamza, the Lion of Allah, charged through the Meccan ranks with a white ostrich feather in his turban, wielding 2 swords at once. Az-Zubair ibn al-Awwam dominated the field on horseback in a bright yellow turban, the same color the angels wore in his honor. The Prophet himself stood at the very front of the lines, acting as a shield for his companions during the fiercest moments. In a final poetic twist of fate, the arrogant Abu Jahl was not brought down by these famous warriors, but by 2 teenage brothers who hunted him down to defend the honor of the messenger. By the end of the day, the unbeatable Meccan elite had been shattered. They left 70 of their leaders dead, and 70 more as prisoners. Only 14 Muslims attained martyrdom, forever changing the course of history. The victory at Badr wasn't just a military win, it was a day of ultimate justice. No story captures this better than that of Bilal ibn Rabah. Amidst the chaos, Bilal spotted Umayyah ibn Khalaf, the man who had once pinned him to the scorching Meccan sand under a heavy rock, torturing him to leave Islam. Umayyah tried to seek protection, but Bilal would not let the tyrant escape. Shouting to the Ansar, "The head of Kufr, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, may I not survive if he survives." Bilal and a group of Muslims surrounded the man who had once shown no mercy. In a powerful moment of poetic justice, the former slave stood over his former master, ending the life of one of Islam's greatest enemies. It was a clear sign that the old world of oppression was over, and a new era of dignity and faith had begun. In addition, all sent angels to help the Muslims. Even the Meccans themselves couldn't deny what they saw. Years later, Suhail ibn Amr, who fought against the Muslims that day, confessed, "On the day of Badr, I saw men dressed in white on piebald horses, positioned between the heavens and the earth, striking down our soldiers." Another Meccan soldier reported chasing a Muslim, only to see his own comrade's head fly off before the Muslim's sword even reached him, accompanied by the sound of a whip crack from the clouds. It wasn't just a battle of men. It was a day where the unseen world became visible, proving that when you stand for the truth, the heavens stand with you.